Baruchim Abayim, ladies and gentlemen. B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach. I hope you're all doing really well on this Wednesday afternoon. I was thinking a lot on the way here just about the Jewish concept of love between men and women. And I was thinking a lot about how happy I am about the way that I met my wife. First of all, I'm a very huge fan of the shidduch system. I'm not a big fan of secular dating at all. Obviously, many Rabbanim among Gedolei Israel also speak about their preference and appreciation for shidduchim, and of course the Jewish concept of dating. Now, traditionally, actually, dating is actually not a thing within Judaism. It's a more modern concept, but the idea of matchmaking is not. The idea of matchmaking is very much part of religious dating. And the way that I met my wife, I met her actually through a shidduch, through a shidduch initiative called Shegririm Balev, which utilizes AI as well as somebody called a shegrir, an ambassador, which plays the role of a shadchan, somebody that you know personally. And it was there that I actually found success. I always had a problem with dating. In the dating world, especially as a convert, but somebody that also comes from a completely different culture and a different part of American society than Jews from New York and New Jersey. And in the English-speaking community, at least where I was living in Givat Shmuel, I found them to be much more liberal and less religious. So once I decided to stop dating in the English-speaking world and start dating Israelis, that's when my luck changed. And Baruch Hashem, I got married at 30 years old. And for me and my wife, we were dating for, I think, between the first time we met and the chuppah, we dated for about 4.5 months. In the Western world, it seems really weird and really short, but in the very religious world, it's a norm, and it's one that I highly recommend. I know modern religious couples that date for a year, and ultimately it's a waste of time, not just in my opinion, but many people's opinions, because what happens after dating for a certain amount of time, your Yetzer Hara gets stronger, and eventually you end up violating different mitzvot lo taseh. Especially for men, they start having very simple thoughts, and they start engaging in certain activities that are dafka asul from, that are asul deoraita, not just the rabbanan. But the main thing that I wanted to speak about today, not just about my preference in dating, but and also the type of dating that is the norm within the religious community, the very religious community, but also the whole concept of love. In the Western world, it's normal to have the idea of love at first sight, and one of the reasons that divorces are so prevalent in America is because something that's always built on just love in the beginning has a very shaky foundation, and it can be compared to building a castle in quicksand. Eventually it sinks. The reason that there are so many divorces in the Western world is that people get in relationships out of love instead of letting the love come. The whole point of dating should be compatibility, to see if people are compatible with each other. And I'm not talking about in a romantic way. I'm talking about can you see yourself marrying this person? Can you see yourself building a future, building a holy Jewish home. If not, then it's a waste of time. But if yes, then you can start building from there. And when you're compatible, then you start looking at getting married and starting a family. So since me and my wife got married, there was definitely a lot of emotional feelings, a bit of emotional feelings towards each other. Of course, at the wedding, very emotional. But for us, compatibility came before that. And over time, especially with mine and my wife's shared experiences since we got married, good and bad experiences, it's only made us grow closer, and that love is much stronger. Instead of building something right off of love. Now, obviously, you want to be physically attracted to somebody because it's a soul to marry somebody that you're just unattracted to, but at the same time, that does not mean that you have to be super picky. For example, if you have all the compatibilities there, but you're thinking to yourself, she's slightly curvy for my taste, or he is a little short and such, then if you're going to reject a shidduch based on that, or reject a marriage prospect based on that, then that the problem is your midot and your expectations are just so far out. The worst thing you can do is put a whole laundry list of things that you're looking for in a person. The concept of the whole so-called shidduch crisis, it doesn't exist. It's a midot crisis. So I highly recommend for people that are struggling in the shidduch crisis to loosen your expectations a bit. Now, I'm not saying compromise on your what you're looking for in terms of Yadut, in terms of Judaism, especially if you're somebody that is wanting to become more religious. You want somebody that's already very religious, or somebody that you could be religious with. It's something that requires a lot of patience, a lot of tefillot, and it's something that requires leaving your ego, checking your ego at the door, because one of the reasons for the shidduch crisis is ego on both the men and the women's part. Baruch Hashem, here in Israel, the mindset is slightly different. I mean, it's obviously you want to have somewhat of a financial backing or a financial future to support somebody, but finances are not the be-all, end-all, like in much of America, even within even in the religious community. How much you make is important. But Baruch Hashem, there's a different culture here in Israel. And Baruch Hashem, me and my wife are building each other up emotionally. We're building each other in our futures. For example, we're both teachers, and we lean on each other in a way that we can become better teachers. We're trying to build up each other in our dreams. First, for example, her dream is to be a musician, which she is, but she wants to be able to perform to more women. And on the topic of things like emunah bitachon, that's the main theme of her music, and she wants to be able to touch more women. And my dream is to eventually become a rav and to have my own niche, my own little kehila. And if people decide to follow me, or they decide to seek out my advice, then great. I will do that with B'Shem Hashem, in God's name, and with Yirat Shamayim. Because in the Gemara it mentions for judges, when judging something, you have to give a pasak. You have to sit in judgment as if Gehinom is open under you, and as if there is a sword in between your legs, which is already scary enough. So for a Rav, especially one that wants to become a Rav, you have to put kavod, you have to put honor completely to the side. If you're focused on kavod, then you're just an ego, then you're just somebody that's constantly wanting praise. But you have to, when somebody seeks your advice, you have to do it out of Yirat Shamayim, and with the knowledge that as a Rav, you are judged on an even greater scale for the mitzvot that your followers do, but also the bad advice that you give and the aviyot that they do because of your advice. So my wife has been very supportive of this, and I'm being very supportive of her music. And we also lean on each other when it comes to our, our childhood issues. What's very important is for somebody to work out their, mental health issues before you get married, because when you bring it into your marriage, it creates a lot of problems. But at the same time, for me and my wife, she has been super supportive on my continued mental health growth, not just in getting more da'at Torah. And I will say I have a lot more fulfillment now than I did even during the time when me and my wife got married, because now I have better building blocks, and having more professional help and really submitting myself to my rabbis helps a lot, and that's super important for somebody that wants to improve their neshama, but also somebody that wants to have more shalom bayit, much better interpersonal relationships. So Bakitzo, in short, love eventually comes. Compatibility is the most important stepping stone. Don't be influenced by the whole Western concept of love. If you need encouragement about being deterred from Western love, just look at the divorce rates in America. The divorce rates are more than 50%. They are the number one leader in divorces, and they have the whole Romeo and Juliet concept of love, which is completely divorced from reality and also divorced from Torah. So, Yeh Ratzon, Bezrat Hashem, may we all have much more success in Shalom Bayit and having better tikshoret, better communication with our spouses. And for those that are going through hard times in Shidduch, Bezrat Hashem, may you all check your ego at the door, and Bezrat Hashem, we will have more, we will have Hatzlacha Rabbah in Shidduchim. Amen. Ki Yeh Ratzon.